Do you feel like you're living two different lives? One version shows up at work, focused, driven, maybe a little guarded. Another shows up at church or at home, very open, values driven, talking about purpose and calling. And the switch between those two versions of yourself is exhausting. Not because either one is fake, but because carrying two separate identities, performing the right one in the right room, takes something out of you. I don't think you have to keep living that way. Here's where the bifurcation comes from. Somewhere in the 17th and 18th centuries, Western culture drew a hard line between the sacred and the secular. The sacred was church, prayer, Sunday. The secular, work, money, ambition, the Monday through Friday. And we accepted that split. But that division is not a biblical idea. In the Hebrew world Jesus grew up in, there's a word worth knowing, Avodah. It means work. It also means worship. It's the same word. Not two activities in two categories. It's two expressions of the same posture before God. Martin Luther recovered this in the Reformation in 1520. That cobbler making shoes to the glory of God is doing sacred work. The Reformation changed the meaning of Monday morning. But somewhere between Luther and LinkedIn, we lost the thread. A 2021 Barna study found 56% of practicing Christians say their faith has little or no impact on their daily decisions. If you're spending 50 plus hours a week at work and faith is absent for most of those hours, that's not integration. That's a part-time faith. Here's the distinction everything else turns on. Business for ministry. You build a company, make money, then use the platform or profits to do ministry. You give generously. You sponsor good causes. That's not wrong. But the theology underneath it is work is the secular means, ministry is the sacred end. Business is what you endure to fund the real thing. Now, business as ministry makes a different claim entirely. The business itself, what you build, how you build it, the culture you create, the people you serve, that is the ministry, not a vehicle for it, the thing itself. Let me show you what that looks like. Disneyland has an unwritten rule called the ice cream rule. If a child drops their ice cream cone, the employee, any employee, regardless of role, can replace it on the spot. No manager approval, no form to fill out. Just that child in front of me matters, and I have the authority to make it right. Walt Disney believed that how you treat people in the smallest moments is the product. The ride is the vehicle. The feeling of being seen and cared for is what people actually remember. Now here's the question. Is that a business practice or a ministry practice? It's both. And Disney isn't even a faith-based company. For those of us who follow Jesus, we have the deepest possible reason to practice this. Not as a brand strategy, but as a way of life. When you treat a customer with dignity, when it would have been easier not to, that's ministry. When you build a culture where people are actually known and developed, that's ministry. The label on the door doesn't change what's happening inside. So how do you know if you're actually integrated or just compartmentalized? With better branding? Two signs you're still in the split. One, your behavior changes based on who's watching. More generous in front of your faith community. More aggressive in a negotiation when your pastor isn't in the room. More patient with your team on days when it feels spiritual to be patient. If your values only show up when there's an audience, they're not values, they're a performance. Two, you feel quietly guilty about ambition. You work hard, you want to grow, you care about building something significant, and underneath all that is a low-grade sense that maybe you carrying this much isn't spiritual. That guilt doesn't come from Scripture. It comes from a bad theology that treats ambition as inherently suspect. Ambition directed toward genuinely serving people isn't a vice, it's a calling. Now, 2 signs you're moving toward integration. 1, your values are load-bearing, not decorative. Horst Schultz, founder of Ritz-Carlton, built the entire company around one phrase: we are ladies and gentlemen, serving ladies and gentlemen. That's a dignity statement, but he didn't just put it on a poster. He made it structural. Every Ritz-Carlton employee, housekeeper, bellhop, front desk, is authorized to spend up to $2,000 per guest without manager approval to resolve a problem or create a remarkable experience. No forms, no committee, no permission. Just, again, this person in front of me matters, and I have the authority to act on it. Sound familiar? That's a load-bearing value, not decorative, structural. Load-bearing values show up when they're inconvenient, when it costs you something to hold them. Integration means your faith shapes what you do when nobody's applauding you for it. Now 2, you can tell one continuous story, not a business journey and a faith journey running parallel on tracks. One story where calling and struggle and purpose and growth are woven together because they happened to be one person. When you can tell that story without switching registers, without the subtle shift that says, now I'm being spiritual, you're integrated. I want to tell you about a conversation I had recently that brought all of this together. I've been sharing more about faith and entrepreneurship online, and someone DM'd me. She's been reading the posts and asked, from your own journey, what has helped you stay grounded when business feels uncertain or overwhelming? What followed was one of the best conversations I've had in a while. We talked about how your faith becomes fickle when it's tied to external circumstances, to metrics that move, deals that close or don't, launches that land or fall flat. That if your sense of self moves with the dashboard, you'll be on a roller coaster forever. But when your identity is drawn from something more stable than your performance, you can stay grounded in the uncertainty without being destroyed by it. Then she told me she's an atheist. I was like, wow. And I thanked her, and I meant it. Because the conversation we've been having wasn't primarily about doctrine. It was about identity. About not deriving your worth from your performance. That resonates whether you share my faith or not, because the experience of building something and having your sense of self tied to whether it's working, that's not a Christian problem. That's a human one. I thought about the conversation for days. As entrepreneurs, we're wired to think about scale. Reach the many, impact at volume. But that DM on a Tuesday afternoon, that was work. Jesus tells a story in Luke 15 about a shepherd with 100 sheep who loses one. He leaves the 99 to go and find the one. What does it say? When he has found it, he lays it on his shoulders, rejoicing. The Disney employee who replaced the ice cream cone didn't do it for the crowd. The Ritz-Carlton housekeeper who goes out of their way didn't do it for an audience. They did it for the one person in front of them. That's not a customer service philosophy. That's the shepherd leaving the 99. We're always trying to scale to the many, but it's often the one we really needed to show up for. Your business doesn't need to fund your ministry. Your business can be your ministry. Not with a Bible verse on the wall, with the way you treat the one person in front of you every single time. And if what we're building at Centerpoint resonates, we're accepting founding members now. Next video, what actually works when coffee shops, co-working, and networking all fall short. See you then.